To find the exact foundation of modern Europe, we must look at two contradictory methods of empire building operating simultaneously: horrific bloodshed and meticulous scholarship. By the late 8th century, the Western Roman Empire had been dead for 300 years. What was left was a fractured, decentralized continent of warring tribes where basic literacy had almost entirely vanished. Into this void stepped a Frankish king named Charlemagne. He looked at this fragmented map and envisioned something massive: the resurrection of a unified Christian New Rome spanning the continent. But seizing all that territory was only half the equation. To actually hold a vast empire together, he realized he had to completely rewrite the cultural and intellectual operating system of his subjects. The first phase of this rewrite was physical. For 30 years, Charlemagne waged relentless military campaigns across Europe, delivering a simple ultimatum to tribes like the Saxons, the Avars, and the Lombards: convert to Christianity or face execution. He backed up this threat with extreme violence. At the massacre of Verdun, he ordered the beheading of 4,500 Saxon rebels to forcefully break pagan resistance. To legitimize this trail of bloodshed, Charlemagne aligned himself directly with the papacy. This culminated on Christmas Day in the year 800, when he was crowned Holy Roman Emperor inside St. Peter's Basilica, wrapping his military conquests in divine authority. He needed a physical center for this new authority, so he built a permanent capital at Aachen. To prove he was the true successor to the Caesars, he commanded that ancient marble columns be ripped from Italian ruins and hauled over the Alps to construct his new cathedral. If you look up inside the Palatine Chapel, the ornate mosaics and octagonal dome deliberately echo ancient Roman and Byzantine power centers. Charlemagne had successfully built a terrifying, massive state, but he quickly hit a logistical wall. His new empire was entirely unmanageable because the local administrators he relied on to run it could barely read. A kingdom that spans from modern-day France to Germany to Italy requires written orders to function. However, local regions were using heavily localized handwriting styles that were completely illegible to anyone living outside that specific area. To solve this, Charlemagne recruited a brilliant English scholar named Alcuin of York. Alcuin actively pushed back against the emperor's violent methods, arguing that true loyalty required education, not execution. Alcuin built an intellectual infrastructure from the ground up. He established a massive network of monastic schools and scriptoriums, specialized writing rooms, where monks manually copied texts to standardize a single curriculum across the realm. To make this network function, Alcuin's scriptoriums invented a completely universal handwriting system. This document shows that invention, Carolingian minuscule. Before this, words were often jammed together in a continuous, unbroken line. Carolingian minuscule introduced clear, distinct spaces between every single word, alongside standardized punctuation, making rapid, accurate reading possible. Armed with this standardized written code, Charlemagne dispatched pairs of educated royal envoys, known as the Missi Dominici. They traveled the counties, inspecting local courts and ensuring imperial orders were perfectly understood and executed. While Charlemagne's armies forced people inside a border, it was Alcuin's quiet, meticulous educational machine that actually connected them. Standardized reading and writing succeeded where swords failed. When Charlemagne died in 814, the brutal physical empire he built immediately began to crack. Without his towering personal charisma and military threats to hold the nobility in check, the political stability evaporated. The collapse was accelerated by a fatal flaw in Frankish law. Instead of passing an entire kingdom intact to a single heir, Germanic tradition dictated that a ruler's lands must be divided equally among all his surviving sons. This tradition guaranteed civil war. By 843, Charlemagne's grandsons fought to a standstill, signing the Treaty of Verdun to partition the empire into 3 kingdoms. The western and eastern divisions drawn by this treaty carved out the permanent geographical borders of modern France and Germany. In purely political terms, Charlemagne's grand vision was a failure. The massive, unified map he spent 30 years conquering shattered within a single generation. But while the borders dissolved, Alcuin's network of monastic schools did not. The intellectual infrastructure outlived the political one, operating continuously across those newly drawn enemy lines. Because these scriptoriums kept working, monks were able to successfully copy and preserve the vast majority of classical Roman literature and philosophy that survives in the world today. Even their handwriting endured. Carolingian minuscule remained the standard across Europe, eventually serving as the direct blueprint for the lowercase letters you read in modern printed books and digital screens. Charlemagne is remembered today as the father of Europe. He earned that title because the cultural and intellectual operating system he funded grew deep roots, surviving his empire's collapse to become the inescapable DNA of Western civilization.